What's up, guys, and welcome to Gamescript. I'm looking at the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Los Angeles Chargers in this one. We got a divisional game where the Chargers are still trying to play to actually win the division, and the Kansas City Chiefs have been getting very lucky with some of these wins lately, and I think it might be time for the Chargers to beat the Chiefs in this one. I'm going to get into it right after this. What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at Pumacom here with Heat Seeker Sports, and you're watching Gamescript. Tonight, I'm looking at the Sunday Night Football game for Week 14 between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Chargers. We got a 42.5-point total with Kansas City as 3.5-point favorites in this one. And it's a game where it looks like the skew is going to be towards building Kansas City heavy teams in this one, which is good if you think that Kansas City is finally going to run out of luck in this one and lose this game. They've gotten very lucky recently against really bad teams and beating bad teams, by the skin of their teeth. And now they're facing the Los Angeles Chargers, a well-coached team that has been surging lately and could potentially, make a dent in the lead of Kansas City Chiefs in the division. So they have a potential to gain some ground on the Chiefs in the division. So don't be surprised if we see the Chargers come out to play and they pull off a bit of an upset in this one. So make sure to hit that like button, give me the 30 likes so we can put out a shorter video later on, and subscribe to the channel. I'm very close to 1,300 subscribers, only need about 19 left. So if you guys can hit that subscribe button, that'd help me out big time. And on top of that, you want to subscribe to get the alerts when these new shows and these short videos come out. I'm going to have an underdog pick'em out later where I think we can make 60 times our money. And it should be a pretty good one, a pretty well correlated one in this game with the way that I think this game feels pretty easy as far as laying out, which players might have the most success in it. So it might be an easier game to figure out for a pick'em standpoint as opposed to a showdown standpoint. But I'll get into building some DraftKings lineups here first. All right, so we're going to take a look at the player pool. Patrick Mahomes has been up and down this season. He's been coming alive a little bit lately against some bad teams like the Raiders and the Panthers. And he had a decent game against Buffalo, 17.8 DraftKings points. That's decent for how he's played this season. But otherwise, he's mostly been under 20 DraftKings points. He's only had 2 weeks where he crossed 20 DraftKings points this season. And now he faces a difficult matchup against the Chargers, which are giving up about 17 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. This might be a game where Patrick Mahomes is not able to, to pull off one of these late fourth quarter wins. But, it's Patrick Mahomes, so anything can happen. So we'll see how that goes. Justin Herbert has been coming alive lately a lot more. They lost J.K. Dobbins. He went through a stretch from about week 8 on where he was having, quarterback one-worthy performances. He crossed 20 DraftKings points a couple times in that. And he had, 19 on the verge of 20 a couple other times. Last week, he threw up a dud versus Atlanta. He only had 7.98 DraftKings points in that one, but they still won the game. It was a very low-scoring game, 17-13. I don't think Justin Herbert is a lock to put in your lineups tonight, but Kansas City's defense has been, showing signs of fatigue lately. They lost Ladarius Sneed in the offseason. They lost, key member of the defense. And then on top of that, recently lost another cornerback to injury for the season. And that quarterback, I'll share over the injury tab over here. As you can see, they lost Jalen Watson, who was a significant quarterback in this defense. They've been vulnerable on the right at the right cornerback position. So they've been a little bit banged up in that secondary. Otherwise, their defense looks pretty healthy. Not a lot of guys on IR. They got a lot of guys on their offense on IR, and that's where we've seen guys like Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, even Sky Moore, McCole Hardman. All these receivers that they've lost. So they're very thin at receiver relative to where they started out. That's going to give opportunities for DeAndre Hopkins, Xavier Worthy, and Juju Smith-Schuster especially. And that's going to be important for us when we're building our lineups tonight. Even though these guys all have, like very thin depth, they've still been pretty split out as far as the opportunities that they're getting. If we go over to, we go over to Fantasy Pros, we can get an idea of the type of snap shares these guys have been getting. If we go to Kansas City, we see that Juju Smith-Schuster had a 40% snap share. Justin Watson had 32%. Xavier Worthy, 42%. We go to multi down here, and we see Hopkins got 42%. So these guys aren't getting even like 50% of snap shares in this offense. So it's very difficult to pinpoint which of these Kansas City receivers that we want to start in our lineups, especially on Showdown when they're getting so little opportunities. It's going to be easier to pin down on the Chargers, which is actually beneficial to us because the field seems to be going heavier for the Kansas City Chiefs in this one. It looks like the 4-2 builds of the Chiefs are going to be more popular, and the 4-2 builds of the Chargers are going to be lesser owned, which gives us an opportunity to get a little bit different with our lineup builds. McConkey is questionable. He's got an AC joint sprain and also issue with his knee. This is going to be important because if he plays, he could go a little bit over-owned. I don't know how healthy he's going to be. It's going to give us an opportunity to jump on another one of these plays. It's important because Kansas City's been weak against the slot lately. They've been giving up 15.2 DraftKings points a game. That's good for like a top 10 matchup for slot receivers. On the other side, the Chargers have been giving up 17.7 DraftKings points a game. Now, this matchup fits in with what the Chargers like to do because Kansas City's giving up 15.2 to the slot receivers. They're giving up 15.2 to tight ends as well. And those are the two positions that they've been focused on the Chargers recently with Will Dissly and Ladd McConkey. So they both have pretty decent matchups this week. Wideouts have a middling matchup, and that's where Quentin Johnston and Joshua Palmer are going to fall. But Ladd McConkey, if he's going to get a high ownership, he could be a guy that we can pivot off of. Estimating him to go under what people might be expecting him to do as far as his performance tonight. Travis Kelce, he's been splitting a lot with Noah Gray. I think they're just basically trying to keep Kelce healthy for the playoffs at this point. They've only been getting 11.3 DraftKings points a game from the Chargers as far as the defense matchup, but that's good for a middling matchup for the tight end position. Travis Kelce or Noah Gray, could be a way to lean on that. Kelce is very expensive. In the flex, he is at $9K. DeAndre Hopkins, 40% snap share count, and he's 8,400. As far as the Chargers go, they're only allowing 19.5 to wideouts. So that's actually a pretty good matchup for Hopkins. It's not the best matchup, but it's a middling matchup. And Hopkins runs 28% of his routes from the slot too, and that's where the Chargers have been most vulnerable. But again, he's only got limited snap shares. So I don't know if people are going to be paying attention to those snap shares when they're building these 4-2 Chiefs lineups this week, but that could give us an advantage to automatically be facing off against 20% of the field as opposed to 80% of the field if we go 4-2 on the Chargers. DeAndre Hopkins. Pacheco came back last week. He is in a timeshare split with Kareem Hunt. And on top of that, the Chargers are only giving up 18.2 DraftKings points a game to the running back position. So it's already kind of a bad matchup for him. But on top of that, he's in a timeshare split, and he's coming off of a pretty devastating leg injury. So Pacheco, he might still be getting eased in here. But, Pacheco, difficult matchup, like if he's going to get a heavy amount of ownership, that's going to be a good opportunity for us to fade him a bit. I think he's looking at around, like a sub 10% ownership in the captain, which is good. So that gives us, if we wanted to go a little bit different and go on Pacheco, we could go there. Chargers, they can be susceptible to the run, but I think this is going to be a difficult matchup with a timeshare split for Pacheco. We got Gus Edwards, similar situation. He's in a timeshare split lately. If you look at the attempts he's had, 6 attempts, 9 attempts, 6 attempts, 10 attempts, 6 attempts. He's only had 10 attempts once in his last 5 outings. So that's important for my underdog pick'em that I'm going to put out a shorter video for later on. Make sure to subscribe to the channel to get alert for that. I got a pick'em where we can make 60 times our money if it pans out the way that I want it to with this showdown slate. Xavier Worthy, being at 7K, that's about the best advantage for him as far as making a decision to put him in our lineups. I think ultimately the amount of routes that he runs in the slot is going to be important because he's running 33% of his routes in the slot. I think the guys with the slot exposure are going to be the most important ones tonight, and that's going to be Worthy and Smith-Schuster because that's where the Chargers have been most vulnerable. Chargers are also banged up in their secondary. If we go over to the Chargers here, we see that Denzel Perryman in the as far as the linebackers is out. Asante Samuel's still on IR, so we don't have him back yet. You see a couple more like Eli Apple on IR, a couple more IRs like just in the secondary, and then the linebackers. We got some depth issues there too, but I think the biggest one is Asante Samuel. But he's been out for a few weeks, and the Chargers have still been pretty good. Like at defending the pass, they're still allowing 19.5 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. So, like a little bit more of a lean on the wideouts, especially like I said, like Worthy and Juju Smith-Schuster, who play both in the slot and out wide a decent amount of time. They're both going to have, like a middling matchup as far as wideouts and a good matchup as far as slot exposure. Kareem Hunt is splitting carries with Pacheco for the foreseeable future. He had 7 carries last week. He also had 4 targets in the pass game. Pacheco last week had 1 target in the pass game, but that was his first week back. I would guess that Pacheco is eventually going to take back that workload, but it's going to depend on when he recovers. Johnson is in a good spot this week, but can we trust him is the thing. Last couple showdowns he's been on, I've tried to trust him and it's been burned me, but like that doesn't mean that he can't hit tonight. He's hit a few times this season for 20 plus DraftKings points. It's just, can he catch the freaking ball? It's going to be the question with Johnson. And how much trust is Justin Herbert going to put in him in a game where they have the division on the line? So Quentin Johnston, difficult to say what's going to happen with him. I prefer Joshua Palmer, especially with the amount that he's running in the slot. Switching over to the Chargers here. Palmer is running 29% of his routes in the slot. So he's the second highest slot guy behind Lad McConkey. And that's going to be good for him because the weakness of the Charger or the Chiefs is in the slot. And on top of that, with Lad McConkey being banged up, they might lean more on someone that, he's been able to trust. Herbert's been able to trust for, like a few years in Joshua Palmer. We've seen it before where he's relied on Palmer, and Palmer, always seems to come through. He's only 5,400 on top of that, so Palmer might be my favorite receiver in this one. Both these kickers are going to be in play tonight. Both these kickers should be a relatively close game. I think it was a 3.5-point spread. Disley in a good spot. Kansas City's been giving up points to the tight end position. They've been giving up 15.2 DraftKings points a game to tight ends. And Disley has been getting a decent amount of work lately. 6, 6, and 4 are 3 of the last 4 games. He didn't do anything last week against Atlanta. Noah Gray, mentioned him. He's been getting a lot more work lately. He's been getting a lot of touchdowns lately, too. 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. He had 2 games of 2 touchdowns in each game. Chiefs and Chargers defense, I think, would be in play. They're both decent defenses. And they're not overly expensive at $4K and $3,600. But these are 2 teams where, the weapons aren't that great. So if the quarterbacks are pushed to try to trust these guys, then, they could end up getting burned. Smith-Schuster running his routes from the slot is going to be key in this game against the Chargers. Look at the last game he had against the Chargers. He looks like he didn't play in that one. But, I wouldn't be surprised to see Smith-Schuster be one of those random Chiefs guys that has a big game in this one. He's at 3,400. Watson, I think, runs a decent amount of his routes in the slot as well. Watson, I believe, is 33% of his routes in the slot. So he is going to be in play as well. All these guys that run a decent amount in the slot are going to be in play for the Chiefs. Vidal is one of those guys that was getting carries last week, taken away from Gus Edwards. He's got like 4 carries last week for 20 yards. And Haskins was another guy that was taken away from him. If McConkey's out, I believe Rhaegar is his direct backup. He got 4 targets a couple weeks ago. Don't be surprised if McConkey is out, then Rhaegar at 1,600 is going to be a good play. And other than that, I think that's about it for this player pool here. So let's go into building some lineups. Let's see. I'm going to go with the captain play. I think the best captain play is going to be, it's either going to be a guy like Xavier Worthy, who we know gets a decent amount in the slot, or maybe Joshua Palmer, depending on which direction that we want to go. If you're looking for safety, it's tough to find safety in this game because, Kelce would normally be the safe pick, or McConkey, but McConkey's dealing with injury and Kelce's dealing with oldness. So, it's just really up in the air. And then these quarterbacks, Mahomes is going to be, 20+% owned in the captain. Never like that situation. So I would probably, I would probably take the risk with Palmer. I think Palmer might actually be the safest floor for a captain pick, especially if McConkey is hurt. So I'm going to go with Palmer in that captain spot. I like Mahomes and I like Herbert, both of those guys. I think it's going to be a volume game tonight. I think as far as Disley, I like Disley tonight as well. So we already got 3 Chargers and 1 Chief. So let's get another Charger in there. I'm gonna go with, well, let's get Juju in there. Maybe Juju. Well, hang on a sec. Let's go with a kicker. Let's go with Dicker, the kicker. That's gonna leave us with 11K. So that gives us like a lot of options. You can go with Kelce, you can go with Hopkins, you can go with Pacheco, you can go with Worthy, any one of those guys. I wouldn't be afraid to leave salary on the table in this one. If we find out that McConkey is going to be playing with no restrictions, then he would make a good captain. That leaves us with 5,300. That puts us in, like maybe right range. Maybe this could be a double kicker easily type of night. Noah Gray would be an option there as well to give us our 4-2 Chargers builds. If you think that it plays out a little bit different, maybe you like the Chiefs to win this game. If I was going in the Chiefs direction, like I might go with Worthy as my captain and go with Mahomes. And then as far as other guys, maybe Pacheco if the Chargers can be run on. And then I would go down to Joshua Palmer again. He gives us some salary relief, but he also has, he's the most trustworthy guy. So I'm going to put him in there. And my other Charger might actually be the Dicker, the kicker. Going to leave us with 10K. And in that situation, you could easily go with Herbert, McConkey, Kelce, depending on McConkey's status, Hopkins. You got the whole slate at your fingertips. So should be relatively easy to build lineups tonight. It's just a matter of who you're going to trust, and all these guys are just all over the place as far as their usage. And share over this tab, all over the place as far as their usage. Just the way that things play out with these teams. Let me clear this out. You see this one I built for Mahomes. I got to go back to the other one. It was on the other screen for that one. I think I had Palmer in the captain. I had Herbert and Mahomes. And then I went to Dicker. And then from there, I went with Will Dissly. And then that leaves you with basically the whole platter to work with. If you like McConkey, if McConkey plays, maybe he gets reduced ownership there. That's going to leave us with 5,300, and that's going to put us in that Matt Wright range. That'll put us in. You could put Palmer in this lineup as well, I believe. No, he's just out of reach, $100 out of reach. But you could swap from kicker. Dicker to right, I believe, and that would nope, that would save you 200 if you went from Dicker to right. So maybe you just have Mahomes and Dicker in there, Mahomes and Wright in there, and then you have an option like if you want to put in Josh Palmer to go with Justin Herbert, Will Dissly, and McConkey. That's a little too many pass catchers for me. Like to put in with Herbert. I would probably go with Dicker in that situation too. If I was going to swap out, maybe I'd swap out Dissly for Palmer, and then at that point, maybe go for one of the defenses or something like that. But that should give you an idea. Another way we could go, if we did want to go with Mahomes, and we wanted to take a risk on which pass catcher was going to be the way to go with him, I would go with Juju, and I would go with maybe Worthy. So I got Mahomes with Juju and Worthy. Let's put Palmer in there, and let's put Dissly in there to give us our two Chargers guys. And then we're looking at 13-2. We could put Herbert in there as well. We could go, Kelce, McConkey, any one of these guys. I would maybe lean Pacheco in this build to give me a 4-2 Kansas City build. And that, I think, makes a lot of sense. I mean, like I said, it should be pretty easy to put lineups together because it's going to be a low-scoring game. And in low scoring games, any one of these guys could end up in the winning lineup. So just keep that in mind. All right, guys, I'm going to get this posted. Hit that subscribe button. Give me the 1,300 subscribers. Hit that like button. Give me the 30 so we can put out a shorter video. And good luck, guys.